Welcome back to Global Crossroads. I'm Bryan Hull, your host. Today we have Abdelmajid, and I've seen him over the years at sort of, to me, what seem random events. I'll go, there'll be a presentation, and then he sort of quietly comes in and stays for a bit. But I've never had a chance to really talk to you, so I'm super excited to finally get the chance. So welcome. Thanks for coming. Tell me first, how long have you been at PCC?
First, thank you so much. It's a great pleasure for me too to come and in this meeting and having this wonderful interview as well. Here in US, I have been here since 1994.
1994?
Since 1994. Actually, I came to United States as a student. And then decided and made choice to stay in US here. I came first to Washington State, then after that my second home was here in Portland, Oregon.
Okay, and then when did you start at PCC?
I started at PCC in, I still remember, 1st of September 2001.
2001?
Yeah.
And I know you work in a very sort of at a workforce training center. Is it the one over on 42nd? Is that the one you're at?
Yes, yeah, the one in the corner of 42nd and Killensworth.
Yeah.
That's what we call it, Portland Metropolitan Workforce Training Center, or the short is Metro.
Okay, so what do you do there?
At Metro, or at that center, I'm Assistant Director for Workforce and Economic Development Programs. Here at PCC, and the functions there is we work with the community members who are needing training or retraining and employment and developing or working on their careers as well. We have, for example, classes from GED classes to English classes, as well as also we have grants and funding through Department of Labor or through State of Oregon Department of Human Services, where we pay trainings as well outside of that center. For example, classes here at PCC, classes at PSU or other institutions. So that's what's majorly function there, and they handle contract, grant, and finance.
How much of your money is grant money about? Is it a lot?
100%.
Ooh la la.
Yeah, 100% of our fundings are grant funded.
That's very stressful in a particular way, I would
think.
It's
how we operate is a little bit different than general fund or regular PCC here. For us, how we operate like a business like. So basically, every day we have to be on our toes. We have to be current with the market, what's going on, as well as providing excellent services to receive in the future more funding.
Right.
So basically, we have to fight and we have to work on our fundings. So it's not something that we are guaranteed every year to receive. So our performance and our work dictates who should be receiving funding or not for the future. So that's why we have to stay.
I think that's stressful. As a faculty member, I'm like, once you get your continuous appointment, then you sit back.
We're used to it there. We're used to it.
Yeah. So. Wow. Where in Morocco did you grow up?
I grew up in a city which is south of Casablanca. It's about 45 minutes south of Casablanca, which is called Settat.
Oh, okay.
And it is actually the capital of agriculture capital of in Morocco. Capital of agriculture in Morocco. And it is basically, when you look in a map, it is between Casablanca, about 45 minutes, and north west of another bigger city, touristic city, which is Marrakesh. And it is about a couple of hours north of Marrakesh.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Between the point you came in 1994, have you gone back much or no?
Oh, yes. I used to go, first time I used to go every couple of years or so. And last probably 10 years, I made it as my mission to go there every year. One is to keep my relationship with my family and life, and visited my parents, which is all my family are in Morocco, and my parents and my sisters and my brothers-in-law, etc. All of them in Morocco. So one of the things I make this as my mission is to visit my parents every year. And then some occasions, basically also I take friends with me to Morocco, and their friends or their neighbors. So who are interested to go to Morocco, they come along. Basically, I don't charge them anything, and they just pay what I pay when I go.
Not like a tour guide or anything. Yeah.
Actually, it's better than that because
Yeah, of course.
because the benefit when I stay with my parents, they stay with my parents for free.
Yes,
we hang
that's
out
very
there,
nice.
and when we visit other places, they visit for free as well. But that I found it's a good way and creating new ambassadors that speaks on behalf of Morocco so people has first-hand on experience about Morocco.
Yeah.
Instead of just you hear stories or you go through it with a group that you don't experience the real life of Moroccans in there. So that's why I try to take people with me as well.
So one of the things I want to talk about or ask you is that in the U.S. media within the last couple of years, since the Arab Spring started in Tunisia, the description that often what we hear is that Morocco, it's a moderately run country, and therefore, because the king, he's young, he makes some changes, some reforms. Therefore, there's unlikely to be a revolution there, you know. And I wonder, that's what the U.S. media says, but I sort of wonder what your perspective is. Do you think that's accurate?
In Morocco, I see even now and in the future is a stable country. It's going to be a stable country. The reason for that is, yes, we have king in Morocco. It is a kingdom, so we have a king, Mohammed VI. And this king is very, very loved and respected by Moroccan community and by Moroccans, either in Morocco or around the world.
Right.
Is a very respected among leaders, some leaders around the world as well. He came with many innovative ideas. Yes. But when he started as a king, one of the things that was very impressive, he focuses a lot on accountability. Started from himself as well. The accountability toward the Moroccan people. And for him, it is important as an exemplary person to be showing or demonstrating to people of Morocco, but mostly to the government, that accountability exists, or if it wasn't exist in the past, it is going to be exist now with my monarchy.
And so you think, because I always hear about corruption, but I do hear about corruption in Morocco. Do you think it's gotten better?
Since probably I would say in 2000 to now, it's improved a lot, significantly. Corruption, I will tell you, it cannot, for me, it is hard to fight it. It's like you're fighting this ghost. It's like doesn't exist physically to fight it. So it's embedded within human being inside. So basically, wherever you go to any country, you will find some corruption.
Right.
But they are the degrees and the nature of corruptions. In Morocco, the government and the king are working currently hard on fighting, for example, the corruption when it comes to bribery. Around the police and, for example, working on the highways or things like that. There is still challenges in there. So there are corruption in some, for example, in some governments where people to get something delivered, maybe you need to know somebody or pay something. But it significantly improved a lot under his leadership.
Oh, wow.
And also the current leadership, government we have currently as well.
That's interesting. That's good to hear. So my impression is, and I wonder if it's changed, that economically there are a few sectors that Morocco depends on heavily to generate most of its internal income, and agriculture and tourism are two of the biggest. And the problem with that is that they are very you can have a very bad year if Europe is in the slump economically, then tourism will be down, or depending on the weather, crops could be down. Is your sense that the Moroccan economy, as far as how it's diversified, is it pretty much still the same, or do you see changes happening?
Coming back, it is based a lot on agriculture, that is true. And when there is a drought, it hits the country very hard.
Right.
But it has been since last couple of years, diversified the economy in Morocco. We saw a lot of companies and even small businesses started by Moroccans within Morocco. So we saw some growth in small businesses and medium-sized businesses as well, but we see a lot of also companies that locate in certain parts of the business to Morocco, including, for example, Boeing or other corporations around the world. And actually, Morocco currently is a market that is in demand by a lot of countries because of the location position of Morocco. And also, investment is growing there tremendously, especially as we look right now there around stability. When you look around us, it looks like there is waves and fire everywhere.
Right.
When you hit Morocco, like you're in another world where it is like safe, stable governments. Even I'll come back to the political parts about the wave going on in the Middle East and Arab world. As you see, for example, you saw and you experience in Libya, in Tunisia, in Egypt, and now in Syria, what's going on, those waves of changing the leadership.
Right.
In Morocco, we have been demanding and asking that keeping our king and supporting our king. And we want the king to be in that position of the power. As before, I don't know if you heard this last couple of years, they were talking, the king himself was talking about to Moroccans, what would you like to see my role to be like? And huge support from even the opposition in government or Moroccans that actually want you to keep the power, have more power over.
But there have been protests, no?
The protest actually is different in natures. The protest in Morocco is not against the king, or the leader of the country. Is the protest there is demanding better living situations. And when they target either parliaments or ministers to get them their attention to listen. So they don't target the king or saying we need to overthrow or we don't like our king. Actually, they ask the king's support with them. And that's where it comes to the role that he is like the person watching over governments for the benefit of public or people of Morocco. So that's why we love him and we love keeping him in power. And then, as you see now, there is the king, but there is also an independent government. And the governments there in Morocco, members of it is by majority of a political group that by majority who voted for the Moroccan public. And from those politicians or that political group that got the most vote from Moroccan public, that's who will get through the parliament to select the prime minister. You see? Okay. Then that prime minister selects other ministers in his cabinet.
Right.
And
those are the people who are getting the protest. All these
so
people.
He's the head of government,
right.
Represent government. And when we protest there, or Moroccans protest there, they protest against decisions or of either parliament or the ministers to change them. But they don't go as violent or as uneducated as in some other regions in the world. So they are targeted, they are educated decisions, the educated protests and demands. And as in Morocco, it has been for years practiced that way. Okay. And that's where you see a protest. It's not a protest to overthrow a government.
That's very, very helpful. I mean,
or overthrow the king.
I don't think the media does such a good job of making those fine distinctions. And you just hear about protests in Morocco, and you just assume, oh, it's somewhat the same. And so that was very helpful.
Even if I may add, Morocco got an award, but also is acknowledged for a model of human rights currently. I don't know if you heard about that. So there is a really new constitution in place. Also, the king has years ago had developed a human rights group, a commission.
I have heard about that.
And actually, even the leader was from the far opposition to our president. God bless him, former His Majesty Hassan II, which is the father of Muhammad VI.
And there were important changes for women's rights, for example, in
yes.
that document,
Yes.
right?
Yes, we'll call there is the family law, or
Right.
the translation
Yes.
in Qanun al-Usra in Arabic, is that changes fundamental there. And Sharia, it changes to more of equity and equality and more of women's rights,
Right.
especially like in marriage and
Right.
divorce,
Right.
etc.
I just want to come a little bit back to the economic thing because we quickly moved into political stuff. So it seemed like what you were saying is that there is more globalization within Morocco than there used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And when I've looked at globalization in places like China and India, I notice that there are people who benefit from globalization, and then there's the people who seem to not benefit. And I wonder if you see the same sort of thing in Morocco, where if you're middle class and educated, you tend to benefit a lot, but if you're poor in Morocco, you may not benefit. Do you see that same dynamic happening, or no? Is it different there?
One, it is basically, I consider it as a basic culture or law or around the world. You see that's nature of that. But in Morocco, it is good to get educated, you get a better job as a middle class, etc. But for globalization, actually, it benefits the poor who are the consumers, in consumers' case. It makes things cheaper and more affordable sometimes when there is a competition,
Right.
and a healthy competition
Right.
internally.
So it's like Walmart. Why Walmart is good? Like it makes good things for the consumers.
I won't say Walmart will be great for us with all
No,
respect to the whole Walmart
Right,
nation
right,
there.
right.
But what I mean in there, life is not expensive in Morocco. If it's a poverty, defining a poor in Morocco is different than definition here
Yes.
in US.
Yeah.
For example, in Morocco, you will never sleep hungry.
Yeah.
And another thing, you will be never left out in the streets. There is support of family and neighbors,
Right.
etc. So
Right.
there is a support of community.
Yes,
So basically, you don't see that lot of homelessness in Morocco.
But I you know, at some point, globalization starts to disrupt or destroy those community ties elsewhere in the world. I've seen it happen. It comes in, and those ties that used to operate in a very healthy way get changed because people get very profit-oriented. But that hasn't happened in Morocco.
Here, where it comes back indirectly related to tourism. In Morocco, another thing, it is handmade, or things that is made as still it's getting made in traditional way by hand. It's very in demand. So we so we have a lot of people that we may consider poor because they're doing some jobs that not enough income, that they still practice in the traditional way. And as you see, the tourists coming to Morocco, those type of products are more highly in demand than products made by machines.
Right, and that's not something that you could make in China. It has to be made in Morocco.
It's
so
a
that
stamp of
protects you.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. It is a stamp of Morocco. You cannot copy it with a machine. You can even not train person. It is an art that's developed embedded with the Moroccans traditionally. Okay. So, and some of them, like for example, you go and you find a group of ladies that they hang out having a cup of tea, but making a rug.
Yeah.
And the rug made handmade, but every rug is not similar to the other rug they made. Every rug has a story.
Yeah, yeah.
So basically, as you see somebody making something, it has something art, but in the same time, what they are thinking about.
And those rugs are expensive too. So when you go,
we'll be happy to export some from Morocco to here.
I don't want to leave without asking you about your experience both in Portland and at PCC. So you came to the area during a very, from 9/11 onward, in this very charged time period. So I wonder what your experience has been as an Arab American, both in Portland and at PCC. You can talk about either one or both during this very difficult time.
Yeah, one of the things, unfortunately, when 9/11 happened, I was a new resident in Portland.
Right.
And at that time, actually, I just was living in Gresham and coming here, commuting to Portland. And it has been unfortunately, some interactions, either comments and unpleasant comments or behaviors toward me, as well as a lot of other Arabs around here. So, and throughout the years, it changed a little bit, and sometimes it goes from high to low a little bit, then it goes up. Then it goes up in waves. It depends on what's going on around the world, or perception through the media as well, like you were talking about media. So sometimes we find people in Portland understanding, etc., nice, but sometimes you find from time to time somebody making a really unpleasant comment, or I hear also from some of our community members that they get unpleasant comment of going home, go to your country.
Oh,
or,
go home?
Yeah,
Those kind of comments?
things like that,
Oh,
or
charming, yeah.
or comment that is unpleasant, like rag-headed or things like that. And unfortunately, I experience those as other people experience that here. We think of Portland as a very progressive and open-minded community, and unfortunately, I don't want to sound negative, but I will tell you, we aren't. We aren't is really
as good as we think we are.
Yes, in the true of it is sometimes there's even those unintended racism or prejudice comments that people make. Unfortunately, our community, as some studies and research was done before, is more saying is the most poisonous community. In Oregon is Multnomah County in the city of Portland.
And you do community work where you have access to a lot of information, incidents.
Yes, a couple of multiple community works that I do, but some of them is I do a commissioner of human rights for city of Portland. And as well as I am a member of as a human rights commissioner, I'm a member also of community and police relations committee. That's basically in this committee we study and we review and we deal a lot in regards to what's happening in our community that involves law enforcement and police, Portland Police Bureau. And we have in the meeting also the chief and sergeants and captain and a detective. So it's a mixed group, as well as we have members of community, as well as a commissioners, four of us or so. And it's chaired by us Human Rights Commission. And so I'm involved a lot with what's going on and what takes place in the city of Portland in regards to from race issues, discrimination issues, to issues around stops by the police, we call them stops, that they make, and reviewing what type of stops, how many stops, are the discriminatory stops or are the good cause stops, etc., etc. So
I wonder if you experience suspicion from both sides, because if the police treat you with some level of suspicion, but also if the community members are suspicious of your position. Do you get it from both sides sometimes?
I will make this point. It's I'll be honest with you. Since I came to Portland, yes, I had many unpleasant interactions with the police. Pulled over for literally not a good reason. Times where certain times when I initiated the support of the police to come support and turned around to be against me, or things like that, and making me uncomfortable. But I will tell you, one of my habits is I do look at each person as that person. When an unpleasant interaction happened with some officers from Portland Police Bureau, I don't go there and cry and say the police are bad in Portland. No, that's not right from my side to make comments like that. So for me, in the last 3 to 4 years, I had a lot of interactions through these committees and my work with the city, with the police department. And I will tell you, there is some wonderful people within police departments I developed a good relationship with. But also there are some officers that they need more training or more help or more ways of how to work with the community. And one of the things that I do a lot, and they appreciate the opportunity doing that, is I go along with officers sometimes and see how work get done, how they operate.
Like you do a shift with them? You sit in the back of their vehicle and do a shift?
Actually, I won't sit in the back. I'd be a criminal.
Oh, that's right. In the front. I'm sorry. I've done that before.
Yeah.
You're right. You sit in the front.
I go down the front, and basically they do the regular work they do.
Yeah.
And sometimes there is the ride along when you sit just in the car. Me, I'll go out and I walk with them. Or situations where there was a negotiation with the person trying to kill himself, I was up front with them as well.
Wow.
So I'm involved with them basically. From my side, the police trust and something like that. There is some officers, some others who trust me very well and work really well with me, and some others that they have some perceptions.
So that's the police side. The community, the larger community, we're almost out of time, but I just want to hear, is there any suspicion of you, or do they respect you for your work, or a mixed bag?
Here we're talking, I assume we're talking about
the greater Arab community. How do they feel about your work?
No, there is trust.
Oh, that's
yeah,
good.
there is a
Because I
good
could
trust
imagine
there.
some people would think, oh, what's he doing? Is he telling on us? You know?
Yeah, it is one thing that my community knows about. They know me before I became that, in that position. And the one thing they know about me, my community, I'm an open book. I will say how it is, what it is. And they saw my support to them as well from before. And they know sometimes even in media or when they saw my talks with in Human Rights Commission or others, I operate with passion. Not I operate with benefit. Also, when I was in Morocco or here, my priority is not the money or the power always, is my people, the people. And when I say my people here as a Human Rights Commissioner, is all residents, not only Moroccan or Arab,
right,
all the residents of
yeah.
Portland.
Yeah, of course.
So that's how you develop the trust, by your actions, by who you are, and your history. I didn't just come and say, I'm working with the police or police giving me a position because I am night or reporting or saying.
I think that's very important what you said about that you're an open book. I think culturally the community really needs to know that. And
one important thing, in my work, in my daily life, I hold both groups accountable. The police or the law enforcement or city officials,
You're
as well as as the community. That's how it's to be. So it goes two ways. You cannot go and say, poor community, you bad these officials, or vice versa. Is you have to look at both situations and study them and research them by heart, then come to a conclusion that is fair and adequate.
Well, I feel like we just started, and the time went by so fast. That I don't know what to do. Maybe we can have a part 2 someday.
Yes.
But thank you so much.
My pleasure.
There were so many interesting things that you said.
My pleasure, Brian.
I learned a great deal.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for another Global Crossroads coming up soon.